Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Clerk Golick, roll call.
Markovich.
Here.
Spitali.
Here.
Venez.
Here.
Kalwinski.
Here.
Ulaki.
Here.
Higgs.
Here.
Emerson.
Here.
Enosa.
Here.
Opinker.
Here. Thank you, Clerk Golick. Moving on to reading of minutes.
Mr. President,
Councilman Spitali.
make a motion to accept the minutes from March 24, 2014.
There's a motion by Councilman Spitali, second by Councilman Kowinski to accept the minutes. Is there any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Minutes pass. Approval of claims. Moving on to approval of claims.
Mr. Chairman,
Councilman Markovich.
move for approval of claims March 19 through April 19, 2014 for council meeting April 14, 2014, beginning with claims dated 4/1/14 and ending with claims dated 4/9/14, claim number 1907 through claim number 2230, for a total of $1,685,789.19. I so move.
Second.
There's a motion by Councilman Markovich, second by Councilman Spitali on acceptance of claims. Is there any discussion?
Mr. President,
Councilman Emerson.
I just had a question about claim 69 through 71, City of Gary truck, fire truck. I guess my question is, you know, the one was fairly hefty and then the other two were very small, and I just wondered how that broke down, those three claims. Just a point of clarification.
Mr. President,
Councilman Higgs.
that's 2 of 9. He's talking about page 2 of 9.
Right. You know, Fire Chief Jeff Smith's here. He could probably explain that.
Truck City's a vendor that we use there in Gary. It's for semi parts and the fire trucks. The $21,000 claim is like 5 or 6 different receipts that were turned in. And the other small ones might have just, they had to run over there and pick up a couple parts.
Oh, okay, so depending on the number of parts and...
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay?
Okay, thanks.
Thank you, Chief. Any other discussion? Clerk Golick, roll call vote on the claims.
Markovich.
Yes.
Spitali.
Yes.
Venez.
Yes.
Kalwinski.
Yes.
Ulaki.
Yes.
Higgs.
Yes.
Emerson.
Yes.
Enosa.
Yes.
Opinker.
Yes. Claims pass, 9-0. Moving on, we do have a public hearing tonight on 2 ordinances, 1405 and 1406. The public hearing is now open for anyone wishing to come up and speak. Yes, Clerk Golick, would you please?
Item A, 14-05, sponsored by Councilman Kalwinski, an ordinance to appropriate funds from the operating balance for the Hammond Park Department. And item B, 14-06, sponsored by Councilman Kalwinski, an ordinance to appropriate funds in the hotel, motel, innkeeper's tax fund for the Hammond Park Department.
Anyone wishing to come up and speak on either of them ordinances? Hearing none, seeing none, the public hearing is now closed. Moving on to communications.
Mr. President,
Councilman Higgs.
I did get a pleasure of going to the Mount Zion Pleasant View Plaza on April, I think it was 1st, for Miss Lula Owens. She turned 104 years old. And I think it was really awesome to see a woman of her magnitude to celebrate her 104th birthday. So I just wanted to bring that to my colleagues' attention, and I think Councilwoman Benez was present as well.
Any other communications? Communications is now closed. Moving on to committee reports.
Mr. President,
Councilman Hinojosa.
Council as a whole be bringing out 1405, 1406, 1408, and 1409.
Any other committee reports? Committee reports is now closed. Moving on to ordinances for third and final reading. Clerk Golick.
Ordinance 14-05, sponsored by Councilman Kalwinski, an ordinance to appropriate funds from the operating balance for the Hammond Park Department.
Mr. Chairman,
Councilman Kowinski.
I move for final passage of 14-05.
Second.
There's a motion by Councilman Kowinski, second by Councilman Spitali for final passage of 1405. Is there any discussion?
Mr. Chairman,
Councilman Kowinski.
this is taking $47,000 out of the operating balance and moving it to special events in the amount of $40,000 and key and cleanup refunds for $7,000 within the Hammond Parks Department.
Any other discussion? Clerk Golick, roll call vote on 1405.
Markovich.
Yes.
Spitali.
Yes.
Vines.
Yes.
Kalwinski.
Yes.
Ulaki.
Yes.
Higgs.
Yes.
Emerson.
Yes.
Enosa.
Yes.
Opinker.
Yes, ordinance 1405 passes 9-0.
Ordinance 14-06, sponsored by Councilman Kalwinski, an ordinance to appropriate funds in the hotel motel innkeepers tax fund for the Hammond Park Department.
Mr. Chairman,
Councilman Kowinski.
I move for final passage of 14-06.
Second.
There's a motion for third and final passage by Councilman Kowinski, second by Councilman Spitali. Is there any discussion?
Mr. Chairman,
Councilman Kowinski.
again, this is taking money in the amount of $16,020 out of the operating balance innkeeper's tax and appropriating it to the hotel motel fund in the amount of $16,020, generally used in marketing and media support. Thank you.
Any other discussion on 1406? Clerk Golick, roll call vote.
Markovich.
Yes.
Spitali.
Yes.
Vines.
Yes.
Kalwinski.
Yes.
Ulaki.
Yes.
Higgs.
Yes.
Emerson.
Yes.
Enosa.
Yes.
Opinker.
Yes, ordinance 1406 passes 9-0.
Ordinance 14-08, sponsored by Councilwoman Vines, an ordinance amending ordinance numbers 7415, an ordinance of the City of Hammond stating the policy on the use of drugs and alcohol by city employees.
Mr. President,
Councilwoman Vines.
I move for final passage of 1408.
Second.
It's a motion by Councilwoman Vines, second by Councilman Spitali for final passage of 1408. Is there any discussion?
Mr. President.
Councilwoman Vines.
This ordinance will reflect updates to the employee handbook concerning the use of drugs and alcohol by city employees.
Any other discussion? Any other discussion? Clerk Golick, roll call vote.
Markovich.
Yes.
Spitali.
Yes.
Vines.
Yes.
Kalwinski.
Yes.
Ulaki.
Yes.
Higgs. Emerson.
Yes.
Enosa.
Yes.
Opinker.
Yes.
Clerk Golick, let the record reflect yes to that.
Thank you.
Ordinance 1407 passes 9-0. 1408, I'm sorry.
Ordinance 14-09, sponsored by Councilman Hinosa. An ordinance to amend ordinance 9242 to partially restore seniority days for firefighters.
Mr. President,
Councilman Hinojosa.
I move for final passage of 14-09.
Second.
It's a motion by Councilman Hinojosa, second by Councilman Higgs for final passage of 1409. Is there any discussion?
Mr. President,
Councilman Hinojosa.
just so everybody's aware out there, that back in the fall in 2013, we passed a budget which included the same budget as last year for the firemen, meaning that all the money that they spent on the fire department, all of it is there. So now, if you remember back March of 2014, the city and the Hammond Fire Department finally settled on a contract. Was it a contract that they wanted? No, it was a contract that it was either take it or leave it. Here we have a county income tax comes into the city of Hammond and gets $2.5 million towards the city of Hammond for public safety. And then we have safer grants that brings in almost $1 million, $960,000. You think that the firemen wanted to give up anything on their pension? No. You work hard for your pension, years and years. Now, by taking away from your pension, and now the contract was signed with 1% less on the retirement, costing $87,000. Not costing, saving the city $87,000. And then clothing allowance, $750 per fireman times. They're all 100 times 155 firemen, saving $116,000. During the life of this 3-year contract, we're making money. We took away from the firemen. They work so hard. These firemen work so hard for their retirement, and then the city takes it away. I didn't take it away. $646,000 is just for 1 year. For the life of the contract with the safer grants and everything, don't forget the safer grants. There's 155 firemen, but 6 of them are going to be used with the safer grant money. So we're saving more money. I don't want to say saving more money. The city is making money, making $1.9 million. So this ordinance right here is to, we're not opening up the contract. Nobody opened up the only one that can open up the contract is the mayor and the Hammond Fire Department. They want to open it up later, that's up to them. But this is just an ordinance that I put together that if we're going to have all this money, $1.9 million for the next 3 years, Bobby Lindy said this is going to cost us $344,000. So subtract $344,000 from $1.9 million. We got a lot of money. Where's this money going to? What are we going to use it on? Nobody said. Maybe they're going to use it for salt, but nobody said anything. Talk to us. But here we got hidden money in the contract. We passed a budget, same as last year for the fire department, that they shouldn't have got no cuts. These firemen and their union worked hard to get what they got. I belong to a union myself too, and we went through a tough contract, but we didn't give up anything. We gained. And these firemen, just like the Hammond Police Department, they should have gained. They gained a raise, but with that raise that they got, they're paying for it. What they took away from their pension and their clothing allowance, they're paying for it. And here we got county income tax money, $2.5 million for public safety to be split between the police and fire. $2.5 million. We got extra money, and we got a safer grant for $960,000 to pay for 6 firemen. And we're going to cut the firemen's. We like I said, we passed this budget. The money is there, and now we're going to take it away from the firemen. These firemen worked hard. You imagine all these firemen that retired, or the next ones that want to retire in the near future, and they're going to take away from their pension. They're going to have to work a couple more years now because of what they took away. So I'm going to move for final passage on this ordinance. It's an ordinance. It's not opening up no contract. It's simply a yes or a no. So I know we have the fire department executive board here. I'd like to make a motion in case I missed something. If they would, if the council will let them speak, maybe just one representative from the fire department.
Mr. President, you don't make a motion, you have to suspend the rules.
Mr. President, I'd like to suspend the rules to let somebody from the, I know Ed Lamalley, so everybody knows Ed Lamalley is the president of the firefighters union. He was told by the fire chief that a trade that he had to be here to represent his union employees, the trade that he had already approved was disapproved. Disapproved by the fire chief. You can't be here. You can't be here to represent. So I can't ask for Ed Lamalley to come up and represent his union and speak and see what he has to say. But we do have the executive board here. If I'd like to make a motion that we accept somebody from the fire department to elaborate on some of these numbers here that I just spoke about. I so move.
Okay, Councilman Hinojosa, you had a motion to suspend the rules?
Yes.
Do I have a second?
Second.
There's a motion by Councilman Hinojosa, second by Councilman Higgs to suspend the rules. All those in favor?
Yes.
Opposed? Rules suspended.
If we can have somebody from the, Mr. President?
Councilman Hinojosa.
If we can have somebody from the fire department, whatever I missed out, if you can give us something there.
My name's Jeff Harlerode. I'm with the Fire Department, Treasurer, Local 556. There's not much that Councilman Hinojosa left out. Some of the numbers we went through, just looking at things that were passed in the budget previously that were taken away from us as of January 1st when we couldn't agree on a contract. The pension contributions, the clothing allowance, those things equaled up to around $600,000 in savings for the city that were coming out of our pockets that we had before. When you add that up with the SAFER grant that was awarded during negotiations to pay for the 6 firemen for 2 years of 6 salaries and benefits, that's roughly $960,000. When you add all those things up over the life of a contract, like Councilman Hinojosa said, it's roughly $1.9 million with the SAFER grant, which is a lot of money. The cost of the seniority days, like he said, was going to be $344,000 that the controller came up with. These things weren't negotiated on when we were negotiating the contract. We couldn't come to an agreement. We were pushing for safety. We wanted more men on a daily basis due to the fact of being with 37 guys a day, and we had a couple fatalities through the city, and we realized that it wasn't going to cut it. And we wanted safety for not just us, for the citizens. So when we couldn't agree to that, we couldn't agree with the city on increasing that number with several different offers going back and forth. We went without a contract. And as of January 1st, these things were taken away. They weren't talked about, they were cut. We weren't happy about that. When we came to the council meeting a couple months back to agree on the contract and had a little bit of a mediation center, or mediation there in the council chambers, we did agree with the city to increase the manpower, but you felt like this was just pushed on you. And we had to, because the cuts were there, and our members were feeling it. And not just our members, our retirees were feeling it. So we felt the pressure, and we did what we had to do. And this money that is left over, that is budgeted for this year and the next year, or I'm sorry, for this year, that's a tremendous amount of savings. And these days, you know, it's not about money for us in our pockets. This is about the days off with our families. This is about the time at home being spent. You know, I mentioned earlier today that firemen work on average 53 hours a week. That's our set schedule. That's 13 hours a week more than the normal 40-hour employee. And if I may, if you add that up, on a normal 40-hour employee and a fireman, we put in basically 680 more hours a year. That's without any of the vacations that were spent at the station away from our families. So it's not about the money, it's about the time away from your family. We miss the baseball games. We miss the holidays. You know, we don't have that time. We're there for the full 24-hour shift. We come in the morning, we leave the next morning. So it's not about the money in our pockets, it's about the time at home that we get taken away from us because we couldn't agree on a contract at the time.
Thank you.
Excuse me, Mr. President?
Councilwoman Vines?
Yes, sir. Were you Jeff? Yes, sir. Were you part of the negotiations with the mayor and Ed Lamelli?
Yes, I was on the committee.
And you attended the meetings?
I did not attend the actual meetings with Ed Lamelli and a couple of the other members with the city. I was part of the committee that would report back to us, and we would decide how to move forward.
Thank you. Thank you.
Mr.
Any
President?
other, Councilman Hinojosa?
Yeah, on that cancellation for Ed Lamelli not to be here, I'd like to ask the fire chief if he was he told by McDermott to cancel Lamelli's trade for not to be here? Was this asked by the mayor or was this asked by yourself? So Chief
Smith?
Chief Smith, was this your decision or whose? Your decision? Yes. Okay.
I run the department.
Okay, has this ever been done before and never done it before?
I've never done it.
You've never done it, but you've done it this time. Okay. I'd like to go back to the regular order of business.
Second.
Okay, there's a motion by Councilman Hinojosa, second by Councilman Higgs to go back to the regular order of business. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Mr. President,
Councilman Hinojosa.
I have one more thing. The budget was passed. The Hammond Police Department, who deserve everything under contract, who risked their lives just like the firemen, didn't give up nothing. I wouldn't want them to give up nothing because they deserve everything that they have. So I just want it to be known out there that the Hammond Fire Department signed their contract with everything they had last year and their raises. But the firemen, because you passed out a piece of literature out there and embarrassed the mayor. I guess you embarrassed the mayor. You didn't embarrass me because I think you have that union right to go out and pass out a flyer if you'd like, even if it's against myself. You want to pass out a flyer against me and I did something wrong? Go ahead on. This is your union right. And then to top it off, on one of the previous contracts, to put on your fireman's contract, you cannot pass out any more literature. Got to silence you. You can't pass out no more flyers on your contract. Who would do such a thing? I know there's all kind of Republicans out there in Wisconsin and everywhere that are union busting the unions, but this is Northwest Indiana. This is union country over here, and we're busting unions over here. You guys work hard. You risk your life, and like Higgs said in a previous meeting, I don't care if you live in Wheeler and you come out there to my house to save lives, to save my mother's life, to save my grandson's life. I don't care where you live at. This is a state law. I didn't make up the state law. The state law, this is the way it is. So that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Mr. President,
Councilman Higgs.
and that is so true what Councilman Hinojosa stated previously in regards to the firemen. I have the utmost respect for the fire and police. One of my pledges when I campaigned was to make sure that the resources that are available are utilized for the fire and police. That's the #1 priority. I stand by it then and I stand by it now. The reality of it is if there's money available, if there are resources available, I think they should be utilized for the fire department and the police department. No questions asked. Whatever needs to be done to rectify the situation, I wasn't in favor with the fact that I'm taking the clothing allowance and a number of other things. But the reality of it is we don't even have one representative from within this council that sits in when the negotiations are done. So therefore, we're blindsided. And when we realize what's happening, it's too late. So then we have one side saying this, the other side saying that. The reality of it is, again, that I don't care if you live in Chicago. When a fire breaks out in my community, in my city, I want to make sure that it's put out. And at a reasonable time. So, no questions about it. Whatever needs to be done, I would hope that this administration would do what's necessary to provide the resources for the fire and police department.
Any other discussion?
Mr. President,
Councilman Emerson?
well, I, for one, am really happy learning that we have more money, that we have so much money available that I didn't know we had. For the last 2 years, I've had to operate the 4th District and losing half of the infrastructure money for the last 2 years. Telling people, a matter of fact, a few hours ago, I had to tell a lady I could not do her street this year because, frankly, all the money's been spent. So that, I'm very surprised at. So it's nice to know we have all this extra money, but by the way, this is 2 years in a row I've had to do with half of what my predecessors have had. And number two, my name's not on that contract. I didn't sign that contract. So no, I'm going to come in and say, as one member of 9, that this contract is not working. And I'm uncomfortable by the sheer fact that I'm going to vote against Mr. Lamelli or with him, and he's not even here tonight. I'm going to go against him or go against, a mayor sign a contract. I don't know why we're even debating getting involved in a contract we didn't sign. That's just me. Thank you.
Any other discussion?
Mr. President.
Councilwoman Vines.
I think it goes without saying that all of us immensely respect the firefighters and our police officers for the jobs that they do. They allow us, and I've said it before, to sleep at night knowing they are there to protect us. And I thank you for that. I thank you for your service. I thank you for the time that you do take away from your family. However, you knew that's what the job was when you signed up for it. You knew it was 24 on, 48 off. You knew that's what it was. That's just the way the job is. It's no secret that over the past couple of years, we have had to plug our budget with casino money. There may have been savings from the fire department, but that's not extra money. It has to go somewhere. And, when we have the deficits that we do, we need to apply those funds in the most prudent manner. I understand the art of negotiation. I understand that it is the American way to negotiate higher than what you had before, for more than you had before. This contract was ratified and signed. I just don't see any useful purpose for anyone involved in this entire situation to go back right now. There's always a question of where the firefighters live, where some of our police officers live. And you have the right to live wherever you want. You have the right to send your children to whatever school you want, whatever suits your family. That you have to do what is best for them. I understand that. But for those of you who do not live here in the city of Hammond, we do. And several of your brothers do live here. And we have to do the best that we can for the 80,000 people that we represent and who live here. My husband worked for LTV Steel. When he retired, he left with nothing. And it's because the company lied to him. He had his pension stolen twice and left with nothing after 37 years. Do you want us to lie to you? I don't think that's the business that we're in. You need to know exactly what's going on. You need to know the truth. And the truth of the matter is, we cannot afford to give you what you really and truly deserve. You deserve much more than what your contract says. And we really wish that we could do that, but it is just not prudent. Thank you.
Mr. President,
Councilman Higgs.
you know, it amazes me all this dialogue and conversation as it relates to, we have a 10% share. Let me see, I've been on the council for 10 years. Haven't seen any internet being utilized in the 3rd district. Let's see. Okay, we have a $2.1 million bike trail just being. There are a number of projects that's going on in the city. Somehow or another we find funding for these. We can't find any for the fire and police. Come on. I find that very, very amusing.
Any other discussion?
Mr. President,
Councilman Hinojosa.
one more thing here. This figure is debatable. I know Bobby Lindy might be looking at this figure a little better, and I'm sure the fire department will be looking at this figure a little better. Of the life of the contract, that there's going to be an extra $1.9 million, in fact, $1,940,545 extra in the budget. Whether it's in there or not, I don't think it is. But if you subtract that amount and take away the $344,000 that Bobby Lindy said this is going to cost us, there is an extra $1,596,545 that if you split it between all the 10%, that's almost $160,000. Bill Emerson, you might be able to at least repave some asphalt on 2 streets, $160,000. I don't know what they're like, 80,000 a block or something like that. So because we're not, so we can take a look at these figures a little better, and I respect that the mayor's not here and he's in Indianapolis. I'm sure he's doing something for the city Hammond, and I really appreciate that. And also, I'm ashamed that Bobby Lindy was axed from his trade. I know we get trades at work too, and I've never heard of anybody, well, we're going to take away your trade from you. So Ed O'Malley is not here because his trade that he had was taken away, and he's not here because he's not here, and the mayor's not here, and we can look at these figures a little better here. I'd like to make a motion to table this ordinance.
Second.
There's a motion to table the ordinance. It's a motion by Councilman Hinojosa, second by Councilman Higgs. Clerk Golick, roll call vote.
There's no roll call. Point of order. No roll call on
Markovich.
Yes.
Spitali.
Yes?
Venez.
Yes.
Kalwinski.
Yes.
Ulaki.
Yes.
Higgs.
They're voting to table it, that's what you want.
There's no vote to table. You don't take a vote on it.
If you request it, you can.
Continue, Clerk Golick.
What's going on?
Emerson.
Yes?
Hinosa.
Yes.
Opinker.
Yes, 1409 will be tabled.
Problem. He didn't even let me talk.
Well, it doesn't matter.
He has to vote, he's here.
Mr. President,
Councilman Higgs.
I was under the impression that once there's a motion to table, there's no roll call vote.
There's no discussion. But you have
Exactly. Thank you, Councilman Markovich.
All right, now what is it that you needed, Clerk Golick? You needed a yeah and nay, right?
Well, the ordinance says that if you're on the floor,
Probably, you're right, so it'll be yay.
you must vote.
Yay. Yay to the vote. Okay? That answers it.
Okay, that handles third and final reading. Moving on to introduction of ordinances.
Item A, ordinance 14-10, sponsored by Councilwoman Venez. And ordinance amending ordinance 4673, amended ordinance 4994, amended ordinance 6035, amended ordinance 7657, amended ordinance 8435, also known as section 94.091 of the Hammond Municipal Code as it pertains to cutting and cleaning properties in Hammond.
Mr. President,
Councilwoman Venez.
I move for first and second reading and placing council as a whole.
It's a motion by Councilwoman Venez, second by Councilman Emerson, first and second reading, and place 14-10 in council as a whole. Is there any discussion?
Mr. President,
Councilwoman Venez.
this ordinance is with regard to abandoned, bank-owned, and neglected properties. It allows the city inspection department to give 10-day notice to managing or controlling property owners for tall grass or vegetation. If the property owner fails to clean the property, they will be charged $200 plus the cost of the cut and clean, and the amount will be placed on their tax bill, and they will be cited. The inspection department will have the discretion to issue a continuous abatement for those who think they can clean up the property once and never again.
Any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? First and second passes.
They're coming after people in the third district.
Item B, ordinance 14-11, sponsored by Councilwoman Venez. An ordinance creating a new section of Chapter 121 to require motor vehicle repossession agents who operate in Hammond to have a City of Hammond license and follow approved procedures.
Mr. President,
Councilwoman Venez.
I move for first and second reading of 1411 and placing council as a whole.
Second.
There's a motion by Councilwoman Venez for first and second reading, place 1411 in council as a whole, second by Councilman Spitali. Is there any discussion?
Mr. President,
Councilwoman Venez.
this would require motor vehicle repossession agents to have a Hammond business license and pay a fee of $100. The repossession agent must notify the police department of each transaction. I was surprised that in 2013, we had 191 repossessions. This will eliminate wasted time and effort by the police department taking reports on stolen vehicles that were actually repossessed.
Any other discussion? All those in favor for first and second on 14-12?
Aye.
Opposed? First and second passes.
Item C, ordinance 14-12, sponsored by Councilman Opinker. An ordinance amending ordinance number 8514 being an ordinance establishing a zoning plan for the city of Hammond in order to provide for orderly growth and development within the city, all in accordance with the comprehensive land use plan for purposes of amending various titles to incorporate provisions for the regulation of restaurant open-air seating and restaurant outdoor seating.
Mr. President,
Councilman Spitali.
first and second and refer to council as a whole.
Second.
There's a motion by Councilman Spitali for first and second reading, referred 14-12 in council as a whole, second by Councilman Higgs. Is there any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
President Opinker, that concludes the introduction of ordinances.
Thank you, Clerk Golick. Moving on to resolutions.
Item A, Resolution 14R09, sponsored by Councilman Opinker. A resolution authorizing the Hammond Fire Department to apply for assistance to firefighter grant.
Mr. President,
Councilman Higgs.
I move for final passage of 14R09. I so move.
Second.
It's a motion by Councilman Higgs, second by Councilman Spitali for final passage of 14R-09. Is there any discussion?
Mr. President,
Councilman Higgs.
please add me as a sponsor of that resolution.
Clerk Golick, add Councilman Higgs as a sponsor on that resolution. Any discussion?
Mr. Chairman,
Councilman Markovich.
I'd like to know if this grant is being written in-house, if it was done from somebody in the city, or if we hired somebody to write this grant. Sometimes when we go for grants, they hire an outside person, and their fee can be as much as anywhere from 5 to 10%. So I'm just curious that before we pass this resolution, or can we have the city controller or whatever let us know who wrote this grant? And I mean, usually there's an application attached to this, and there's no application for this grant. So I'm just curious, and you know,
Mr.
if we can
President.
get
Councilman Higgs.
The reality of it is...
Chairman. I wasn't finished.
Okay,
go
Councilman Markovich.
Go ahead, Councilman.
I don't think I was finished. I'm sorry.
Go ahead, Councilman Markovich.
So, you know, I would just be curious if we're paying a fee for some outside agency to write this grant, and if it's done by the police department, if they're doing it, and I don't see the city controller
As
here.
far as my knowledge, Councilman Markovich, that is done in-house.
But it hasn't been done that way in the past, so I'm just curious if we can get an answer on that then.
All right.
Mr. President,
Councilman Higgs.
the reality of it is a grant, and they're applying for anything that's going to help the firemen in their endeavors. We need to run for it. We're already discussing the issue as to the budget restraints. Now you're going to question as to whether or not grants are being written outside. You can very well go to the Board of Works meeting and question any of these projects or anything that goes on within the city, Councilman Markovich. The purpose of this grant is to what? Help the fire department.
Mr. Chairman,
Councilman Markovich.
I disagree with Councilman Higgs. I'm not against this grant. Everybody's in favor of free money. Sometimes we spend money foolishly here and nobody questions anything. But if this is something that can be done in-house, I just want to know. A lot of times we go for bond hearings, we have a law department, we have a bond counsel, but yet we go to the outside and hire somebody else to do the bond work, and we pay them over hundreds of thousands of dollars just to do a bond. It's not a question that's out of line. I'm not saying I'm against the grant money. Yes, it's free. We welcome it. We welcome anything that's free. Especially it's a grant, and most grants, you don't have to pay them back. So why he would be questioning me, why I want to know if somebody was paid as an outside fee, that's in the realm of my position as a councilman, and I think it's a fair question, and it shouldn't be questioned why I'm asking that question. Thank you.
Mr. President,
Councilman Higgs.
the issue is that it's a grant. The substance of the grant, if you want to ask any of these questions, you're welcome to do so. I'm not saying that you don't have no reason to or not answer or request a question for the answer, but I think the attorney is here, and she can tell you most of all the legislation that's presented to this body with outside our attorney is done where? Usually through the city attorney. Am I correct, Attorney Cantor?
Councilman Higgs, I wrote the resolution. I received the information from Jeff Coaches at the fire department. I do question the timing of this question, considering we had 5 firemen sitting here up until 5 minutes ago. Somebody could have asked them that in caucus. But as far as I know, I believe it's being done by the Hammond Fire Department itself.
Can you get an answer for us for the next council meeting?
Well, if the problem is if this doesn't pass, there are deadlines for applying for grants, and it would become moot, and it won't make a fig of difference then if it's not done in time.
That's correct. Clerk Golick, roll call vote.
Markovich.
Yes.
Spitali.
Yes.
Vines.
Yes.
Kalwinski.
Yes.
Ulaki.
Yes.
Higgs.
Yes.
Emerson.
Yes.
Enosa.
Yes.
Opinker.
Yes. 14R09 passes 9-0.
Item B, Resolution 14R-10, sponsored by Councilman Kalwinski and Councilwoman Venez. A resolution supporting the South Shore Extension Environmental Impact Study.
Mr. Chairman,
Councilman Kowinski.
can we have Clerk Golick read the resolution in its entirety, please?
Clerk Golick.
Second.
Second by Councilman Spitali.
So we have first and second. Okay. Whereas under federal law, the South Shore Extension project is required before a request to proceed is submitted to the Federal Transit Administration to complete a draft environmental impact study, and whereas the required draft environmental impact study will examine all aspects of the South Shore Extension project, including its financing and route, and will take approximately 18 months to complete. And whereas NICTED has contracted with ACOM of Los Angeles to prepare this draft environmental impact study at a cost of $3 million. And whereas the draft environmental impact study, when completed in 2016, will then be submitted to the Federal Transit Administration, the New Starts program, and will show what percentage of the projected $570 million cost will be federally funded and what percentage will be paid for by local municipal bond debt. And whereas the City of Hammond, as a result of Senate Bill 367, has already contributed $600,000 annually to the South Shore Extension project for a total cost of $18 million over 30 years. And whereas the City of Hammond taxpayers are being asked to contribute an additional $900,000 annually from seeded funds to the South Shore Extension project for a total cost of $27 million over 30 years, without knowing what harm or benefit will be received by the City of Hammond or its citizens. Whereas the harm or benefit to the City of Hammond and its citizens will be determined upon the completion of the draft environmental impact study, and the City of Hammond, by its mayor and council, support the prompt and timely completion of that draft study and wish to support this effort. Now therefore be it resolved, the Hammond City Council and its mayor hereby declare and commit a single payment of $250,000 of its 2015 seeded funds towards the cost of the draft environmental impact study prepared by ACOM Corporation for NICTAD. Upon completion of the draft environmental impact study, the Hammond Common Council and mayor will make a decision on pledging further financial support.
Mr. Chairman,
Councilman Kowinski.
I move for final passage of 14R-10.
Second.
Motion by Councilman Kowinski, second by Councilman Spitali for final passage. Is there any discussion?
Mr. President.
Councilman Hinojosa.
Yeah, I just want to let everybody know here, I did ask the question, where's the $250,000 coming from? The $250,000 is coming from the county income tax. So if they take out $250,000 right off the bat, $250,000, meaning we're going to have $250,000 less on the county income tax, meaning us councilmen, each 10% that have casino money are going to have to pay this $250,000. But $250,000 to commit and find out on the study is better than committing to millions and millions of dollars for hundreds and hundreds of years or 30 years, whatever it is.
Any other discussion?
Mr. President, I think,
Hold on, Councilman Higgs, I didn't acknowledge you. Councilman Kowinski?
I think it was Councilman Spitali.
Councilman
I'd
Spitali?
like to be added to this
round.
resolution, please.
I'd like to add Councilman Spitali to that resolution. Any other discussion?
Mr. President,
Councilman Higgs?
the reality of it is that this is considered to be a study. A study is trying to find out exactly if this is going to be feasible, if it's going to be beneficial to not just Hammond, to the region. There are other communities that have dedicated funds towards it. Again, as Councilman Hinojosa stated, it would be CETA money, which will actually come from the optional income tax, which will be taken away, with that, which means there'll be less money to be utilized for street projects, sidewalks, curbs, overlays, lighting. So it's just a study, so we're saying we're gonna give this money, set it aside to do a study that a project may not even come to fruition. Mind you, there are other communities that have signed off, but yet there are some are still wondering if this is the right thing to do. Personally, I feel as though infrastructure is a wonderful thing. The reality of it is, I think all the communities should have came together as one, and not this one give $1 million, this community give 80,000, this community gives 250, this community gives 3 million. To me, it's just, it makes no sense to me. It should be leveled across the county. I mean, I understand there are smaller populations in other areas, they can't give as much, but if you got a city of our magnitude and one right next to it, and they have just as much revenue as we do, why aren't we giving as much as they are? It just, to me, it just doesn't make sense to me. But if you want to do a study, go right ahead. Who's to say this fruition will come to pass? Heaven only knows. It may take 10 years from now to get it complete. But we're going to invest and possibly see into the future, and hopefully this will be a great asset to the Northwest Indiana.
Mr.
Very
Chairman,
interesting.
Councilman Kowinski?
Very interesting.
I chose to support this resolution because when the good congressman was here in front of us and we were asking questions, the responses were, I'm not sure, it's unclear right now, I don't know. And it seemed difficult to promise $900,000 a year for 30 years on those responses. The questions were geared to how that would have an impact on Hammond primarily, because this is the Hammond Council. Well, after that meeting, I had opportunity to speak with some engineers who said, well, there aren't any answers, because until an environmental impact study is done, all of it is supposition. Well, so it made good business sense to defer a decision on how much or what we would contribute based on having the results of an environmental impact study. To that extent, to my knowledge, the environmental impact study will cost about $3 million. At this point in time, I believe the RDA has committed $1 million, and there is still a need for $2 million more to have the impact study fully funded. It seems to me that spending $250,000 from the County Economic Development Income Tax funds, when it comes right off the top in 2015, made good sense to see what impacts there would be on the city of Hammond, which would give us better insight into, is this a good thing for Hammond, or is it a good thing for the region, or is it any good at all? So therefore, I am anxiously supportive of this resolution because I believe it's good money spent. Also, the council receives dollars per district out of gaming revenue. It's unclear to me that seeded money actually goes into each district councilman's pot of money to spend on infrastructure. That could be a misnomer, or that could be correct. I'm not sure. But at this point in time, it makes good sense to put money toward the study to see how it impacts us, and to me, it's good business. Thank you.
Any other discussion?
Mr. President,
Councilman Emerson.
I basically agree with Councilman Kowinski. Doing the elementary school math comes out to about $42,000 per district in regards to this resolution.
25 is 10%, because you're 7.
Okay, it's even less than that then. Okay, I stand corrected. Even so, I think it's a wise investment to make on an overall over $500 million project that has ramifications for Hammond. Well, we don't know what they are yet, and that's the crux of the problem. So I would, and at the risk of speaking parochially, I have to answer to 14,114 people in the bottom line in the 4th District. And I really want to make the most intelligent decision I can for them, and then on the second level for the city of Hammond. That's just my bottom line. So I think we're on the right track, no pun intended. We don't have a lot of answers coming from the initial presentation of the project, so I think this will be a way to get a lot of our questions answered. Thank you.
Mr. President,
Councilman Higgs.
the reality of it is that even though we're participating and we're the center of this project, even with doing the study, that doesn't guarantee that it's going to come into fruition. Now, there are other communities that are certainly contributing, but if for us to do a study in central, just Hammond, how is it going to actually impact the other areas that it's going to affect? That's my question. If we're just giving this money, and I understand the fact that, you know, initially it was millions of dollars over a period of time that were going to be taken away. And that was really an eye-opener, and I applaud the mayor for saying, hey, maybe we need to rethink this because it's going to impact Hammond for years to come. When you're right, I agree with you. When you're wrong, you're wrong. The reality of it is that even with studying this project, we're not even sure that it's going to come to fruition. And to invest in a project where there are other surrounding communities that are involved, that makes me leery as to what are we studying for? To see where the train station is going to ride through Hammond? Or is it going to connect over overpasses? Or are we going to tear out the middle of the streets and the train is going to run down Calumet Avenue? I'm just wondering, what are we studying for? Because I know they planning on making this a thoroughfare for the project, but if everybody's not sitting at the table, just because they commit the dollars, they may not be in agreement with some of the things that may come in the future. So we could throw money after the project, but it should be a design and a complete plan. And we should have it before we start spending X amount of dollars. I'm totally for the project, but I need to see a plan. That's just like when a child is born into the world. The parents want them to succeed and be the most successful children in the world. But if you don't nurture them and show them, then I don't know what could happen. It could be a disaster. So, in saying that, I just would like to have some generalized idea as to if the train is going to go over Homan Avenue, are you going to tear down something? And for us to just do a study and not have the other communities doing the same study, what are we accomplishing? That's my question. And it makes me wonder, are they going to take the South Shore Station from downtown and make it a straight thoroughfare through my district? Marianne, is your house going to get tore down in the process?
I know it'll be at the end of my street.
Hey, she's out of order.
But, there are questions.
Order.
as to how this is going to affect our city. So that's my only concern. I'm totally for the project. I just would like to have a more clear view. And I echo the sentiments of Councilman Kowinski when he says all the money that was first, we were approached to give at first in the commitment. I mean, it was overwhelming. We're already in a deficit of $33 million, this city. And it's not easy when you don't have the funding. So that's all I have to say.
Any other discussion?
Mr. President,
Councilman Spitali.
bottom line is we're all up here to do what's best for the city and the people within the city, and this $250,000 we're going to be spending on a review of what's happening is well worth the money.
Mr. President,
Councilwoman Vines.
in my opinion, this $250,000 that we are contributing to the study that is going to be conducted is a minute investment for what could possibly be a really good project for the city of Hammond. Without seeing the results of the study, we have no idea if it's going to be a great project or if it's going to be a boondoggle. And that is the purpose of the study. That's why I am in favor of the study, so we can get our questions answered. Where exactly is this line going to go? Where are the train stations going to be? Is there going to be freight? All of those questions we asked and didn't get any answers. So I look forward to the results of this study in an effort to get some answers. Thank you.
Any other discussion?
Mr. Chairman.
Councilman Markovich.
Yeah, I'd like to ask the sponsors a question. It says here, whereas the city of Hammond, as a result of Senate Bill 367, has already contributed $600,000 a year to the South Shore Extension Project for a total cost of $18 million over 30 years. When did that start, and how much money have we paid already into that Senate Bill 367? Can you guys tell me what that is, what that figure is?
Mr. Chairman,
Councilman Kowinski.
I'll tell you what I know, and that Senate bill is the senior citizen tax exemption loophole that was fixed, and the approximate savings to the city of Hammond are $600,000, and Governor Pence signed into law that those monies would be going downstate.
Mr. Chairman.
Councilman Markovich.
Well, I'll let Councilwoman Vines speak.
I believe that that money went to the RDA.
I think you're right, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Any other discussion?
So how much money, when did this start, and how much money have we paid into that already?
We haven't paid any into it.
Point of order.
According to Senate Bill 3, according
Point
to
of
this
order.
resolution, it says that we already contributed $600,000 for a total cost of $18 million over 30 years. It says that in this resolution.
Oh, that.
Mr. Chairman, I believe that.
Councilman
probably-
Kowinski.
Thank you. That probably should say we're on the hook for $600,000 annually.
For what?
And I don't know how long, or I don't know when that starting point is.
Well, you're going to say you don't know how long, but it says $600,000 for 30
What
years.
I-
I think
what I
Senate Bill
meant to say
367
was-
is
what I
different
meant-
than what they're talking about now, where they want with the CETA money.
It is different.
Okay,
It's the
so-
senior citizens bill that took and closed the loophole with savings that initially each city and town was to receive, and Governor Pence signed a law that said the cities would not get that money, and rather it goes to the RDA in Lake County to address transportation.
So we still have to pay the $600,000 a year?
Yes.
And we don't know
Well,
how many...
we'll never see it. It goes directly to the RDA.
And we don't know what they do with it.
It's supposed to go for rail transportation. It's part of the plan. So we're giving $600,000 a year roughly plus, what if the congressman got his way, another 900,000 a year, each for 30 years.
Mr. Chairman?
Councilman Markovich.
You know, it's nice, well, it's not nice to, you know, they want $250,000 to do a study. And if you've been following this in the newspaper, they've already stated they have their $300 million to do the study. So why should we be giving them another $250,000 when they already got enough money to do the study? Now, a year or so ago, this city spent $325,000 to demolish the old train station there at 173rd and Lyman Street. We spent $325,000 to demolish that. And was talking about when we do that, we're going to put housing there or whatever. But what did we do? We put a bike path there. This is right next to this rail line where it's supposed to go, supposedly where it's supposed to go. But you hear different things, that if they do a flyover, that thing's never even going to come in Hammond because of all the railroad crossings that's going to have to be created and so forth. The thing that bothers me, we spent $325,000 to demo that concrete slab. That's the old train yard, Erie Lackawanna. And they found out because of the study we did, we cannot even build houses there because it's dirty land. So how much more is that going to cost to remediate all of that, just to put that trail line in there? I mean, it's in Councilman Emerson's district, and he's the one requesting to have houses there, and now all of a sudden they can't do it, so then now they're talking about putting a dog park there to walk the dogs. So we spent $325,000 to build a dog park. But the thing that bothers me is, it's a shame that, you know, Lake County has been threatened by downstate all the time because maybe 2 out of the 90-plus counties are the only ones that don't have the county income tax. And we all know, and even the mayor's gone to bat for us, saying that, you know, we've been being punished because of that, and that's probably rightfully so. But when you hear that certain state reps got together and everybody else and all of that, that let's get the county income tax going, and we'll use that money for the South Shore. Now, there was only probably a handful of those people that knew about it, and they weren't going to tell, but that's where they end up getting the money. We're all strapped anyway to operate our city budgets and everything, so if they needed extra money, fine, we'll do the seeded money. Well, Hammond's share is roughly $2.1 million. That's going to come back, and granted, it's only for a study, but you know, the real crux to all of this is you had 4 county councilmen decided for all the people in Lake County that put us in this situation. If those 4 county councilmen would have never have voted for this, we wouldn't be talking about this today because there would be no money for it. You cannot believe how many of the senior citizens are telling me that, you know, on their checks, their pension checks, what the hell is this money? What is this? This and that. You know, $500 already just for a quarter. You know, that's going to be $2,000 a year less money for me to spend. And, you know, we may not even be around to see this project, you know, to see it come in existence. This study is going to be 18 months. This whole council can change within 18 months. We might not even be around. And then the new people coming in, they're going to go ahead and come up with the $900,000 annually for it. I mean, we talk about regionalism, and you know, the mayor said that, you know, well, yeah, he's looking out for regionalism, and, you know, that's what he wants to do, and that's fine, and nobody faults him for that. And we're all looking at regionalism. But you know what? Charity begins at home. This is our money. This is the taxpayers' money. I don't care about the CETA money, you know. And we're going to give that money up. It's not going to benefit anybody here in Hammond. Because if they do put that line down that bike trail, do we really want 12 railroad crossings blocked for trains? We're going to pay all this money to have one train go in the morning and one train come back at night to take the people to Chicago? That's not money well spent for us. They probably need to come out with another way to do it. I mean, there's people that live all the way in South Bend and they ride the train from South Bend to Chicago. They do that. And we're already funding that. If they want to live there and work in Chicago, then let them pay for it. If it costs them, let them buy a car. They want to live or work in Chicago, let them spend $30,000 for a car or something every 4 or 5 years after they have 150,000 miles on it. Let them pay the $100 a week parking in Chicago. That's not our choice, that's theirs. So why should we subsidize them for where they work? Yeah, they say they spend the money here in Northwest Indiana and everything and all of that, but it's not going to benefit us. And I commend the mayor, you know, for standing up and sticking with us, but I cannot go along with this. I mean, we're having trouble paying the bills as it is, you know. We're taking away money from different departments to rob Peter to pay Paul. I mean, we just went through this discussion with the fire department and everything else. I mean, money's tied everywhere. And we need to worry about our own citizens here. And, you know, if we're going to, you know, like the mayor said, we're going to build that station over there. We want people to leave Hammond and move to not South County, but Dyer and St. John and Munster. Want them to leave out of Hammond and live over there? From what I understand, you know, Munster's jumping on the bandwagon. They bought a lot of property over there because they're figuring they know where that new station's going to go. But see, we're not all being told everything what's going on. There's a different agenda here that we're not being told. We're just going to be the stepchild. Just give us the money, and we'll do what we want to do with it later on. It's like Pelosi said with Obamacare. Well, let's just vote in favor of it. We'll figure it out later on. Well, it's got its good points and bad points. Thank you.
Mr. President,
Councilman Emerson.
just a point of correction, Councilman Markovich. I never said I wanted housing at Lyman and 173rd. What I did say I wanted, and I've said it a number of places, is a possible dog park, a soccer field or complex, not unlike what Councilman Hinojosa has in the 6th District, playground equipment, maybe a hockey rink, either indoor or out. That's what I have said. I never said anything about housing, so I don't know where that came from, but I'd just like to make that clarification. Thanks.
Mr. Chairman,
Councilman Markovich.
I want to thank you for bringing that up. Sorry if I misunderstood you. So you don't want housing there that's going to put houses on the tax roll and are going to pay taxes, but you're going to want a park there, or you're going to want a dog park there that's not going to pay any taxes or bring any income into the city. So that's how you stand corrected. I just want to make that sure then.
Mr. President,
Councilman Higgs.
well, I can say on Columbia Avenue, I would like to see them do something with that property that's been vacant for a number of years, and all they need to do is apply for a brownfield grant or something and have it cleaned up and move whatever the chemicals are there and sell the property and get something built there. I would like to see that. Centus is right in the back of it, you know, and it's a huge piece of property that could be developed and be on the tax rolls. That's been my plight for the last 10 years. When is someone going to take the initiative to apply for a grant and get the property clean and get somebody there to utilize the property?
Any other discussion?
Mr. President,
Councilman Emerson.
the reason there cannot be housing there is, as I understand it, that land, in part of this environmental study may bear that out, is polluted. However, I think you can play soccer on some land where you cannot actually live there. That is why I want facilities unrelated to living in an area that's polluted. And that's what I heard it was. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman.
Councilman Markovich.
So we already know that the land is dirty, but we don't want houses in there to bring in revenue. But we'll put our kids on there to play soccer. We'll put our kids on there, you know, so where they can develop cancer and everything. We'll put our animals there and dogs so they can get sick. But we don't want housing there. I mean, they built, I believe, one of the NFL football stadiums on a garbage dump, and it seemed like the majority of the players that played there over a long period of time developed cancer. So, you know, somebody needs to get their priorities straight or find out exactly what's going on. You already gave reasons why, you know, we can't do this, we can't do that, but yet we're going to drive a train and everything else and all of that there.
Mr. President,
Councilwoman Venez.
I would like to return to the discussion about this resolution with regard to the South Shore extension.
Thank you, Councilwoman Venez.
Councilman Markovich stated a lot of questions that he had. with regard to the South Shore, which is precisely why, in my opinion, we need to make an investment for the future growth of Hammond. If we do not agree with the findings of this study, after this investment, which is minute in comparison to the 30-year investment, we are under no obligation to move forward. We need to find answers to our questions. We don't need to talk about the money that we spent to remove a piece of concrete, which, by the way, HUD money was used for that. We don't need to talk about the condition of the land, because the study is going to give us answers on all of this. It's my understanding that we should have answers to our questions within 18 to 24 months. We can then resume our conversation about what is the best way to move forward in the city of Hammond. Thank you.
Any other discussion? Clerk Golick, roll call vote.
Markovich.
No.
Spitali.
Yes.
Vines.
Yes.
Kalwinski.
Yes.
Ulaki.
Yes.
Higgs.
No.
Emerson.
Yes.
Henosa.
No.
Opinker.
Yes. Resolution passes 6-3.
President Opinker, that concludes the reading of the resolutions.
Thank you, Clerk Golick. Moving on to new unfinished business.
Mr. President,
Councilman Higgs.
I am proud to announce that Who Got Game East Hammond 10th Annual 3-on-3 Basketball Tournament, sponsored by yours truly, 3rd District Councilman Anthony Higgs, will be held at Martin Luther King Park on Saturday, June 21st, 2014. All games begin at 8 a.m. Looking for children from 10 to 12, 13 to 15, 16 to 18, play free. Please come out and enjoy your day of fun-filled festivities. I'm going to be giving away bikes, as we do annually, and just bring your kids out and just enjoy yourself and watch the kids play games.
Mr. President.
Councilman Hinojosa.
Yeah, I'd also like to add one more thing on tabling that ordinance for the firefighters, that there's a threat that it could have voided their contract. We don't know if this is true or not, but that's another reason to table that fire ordinance until the lawyers from the fire department can investigate it further. Last thing we want is the firemen not to have a contract, so it'll be further investigated. And also, in case you did not hear, there was a Board of Public Works meeting that Lamalley and I believe myself, an elected official, something about misconduct, working with the firefighters, not opening the contract, just working with the firemen on trying to get something back that they lost. I might have to go to a half-hour meeting with the internal affairs in the police department. Therefore, I'd like to make a motion that I have the council attorney, Bob Berger, represent me in any internal affairs investigation whenever it comes up. I so move.
Second.
It's a motion by Councilman Hinojosa to have Bob Berger represent him if need to be. Second by Councilman Higgs. Clerk Golick, roll call vote.
Markovich.
Yes.
Spitali.
Yes.
Vines.
Yes.
Kalwinski.
No.
Ulaki.
No.
Higgs.
Yes.
Emerson.
No.
Henosa.
Yes.
Opinker.
Yes. Passes 6-3.
Mr. President. Ooh, Lord Jesus. Mr. President,
Councilman Higgs.
I wanted to send out condolences to Mr. Frank Banks' family in the loss of his sister. Miss Maddie passed away on last weekend, and she will be funeralized on Wednesday at Mount Zion Missionary Baptist Church, from what I understand, but certainly want to send my condolences to that family.
Any other new unfinished business?
Mr. Chairman.
Councilman Emerson.
Since we spent a lot of time talking about a field tonight, I'd like to get back to the amount of time we spent on the resolution a little bit, and beyond the NICD study that we talked about in 14R10, I would like a letter sent to NICD, the RDA, and NERPC requesting any copies of previous plans or diagrams, real plans or fake plans, as it relates to the whole extension issue, but especially how it affects Hammond.
Second.
Well,
A motion by Councilman Emerson, second by Councilman Higgs to send NERPC a letter and whoever's involved with that South Shore deal. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Any other unfinished business?
Mr. Chairman.
Councilman Markovich.
In the caucus today, it was brought up that several people in the police and fire department received raises anywhere from $5,000 to $10,000 after the salary ordinance was passed and the budget was passed. And I would like to have a letter sent asking who in the last 10 years got these raises, which were higher than what the city council approved. Now, the city council approves the salary ordinance for all police and fire and the employees. And if they were paid more than what was set by the salary ordinance, then I'd like an explanation who these people were, how much they were paid, when they were paid, and if in fact that is true. Because if that happened, then we need to know why that happened, how that could happen, because it is set by ordinance. And if people were paid more money than was set by the city ordinance, then we need to be made aware of that. I so move.
Second.
Who do you want the letter sent to?
Controller and I guess the Board of Works.
Okay, there's a motion by Councilman Markovich to send to Controller and Board of Works an explanation of the $5,000 to $10,000 raise police and fire received
Or any department heads too, I guess.
over the last 10 years. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
Any other new and unfinished business?
Mr. President,
Councilwoman Vines.
I would again like a letter to be sent to Mr. Bob Alderman, Acting Deputy Commissioner for INDOT, LaPorte District. The address is 315 East Boyd Boulevard, LaPorte, Indiana, 46350. Thank you for your attention on Indianapolis Boulevard and Calumet Avenue. However, filling numerous end-to-end potholes with tar is less than adequate. These roads are a hazard to anyone traveling, and it endangers the lives and the property of anyone who uses them. For the safety of anyone who does travel on these roads, I request a permanent fix of the contiguous potholes on Calumet Avenue and Indianapolis Boulevard. I so move.
Second.
There's a motion by Councilwoman Vines, second by Councilman Higgs to send a letter to the head of NDOT in regarding Calumet Avenue and Indianapolis Boulevard. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Any other new and unfinished business?
Mr. President,
Councilwoman Vines.
as I do at every meeting, I would like to read a list of the upcoming Crime Watch meetings in the area for those who wish to be informed about what is going on in their neighborhood and wish to do good in their community. On Monday, April 21st, Columbia Crime Watch will meet at Columbia School at 6 p.m. On Tuesday, April 15th, East Hammond Pullman Crime Watch will meet at the Ophelia Steen Center, 6:30 p.m. On Thursday, April 17th, Hessville Crime Watch will meet at the Jean Shepherd Center. That is at 7 p.m. On Thursday, April 17th, the South Hammond Crime Watch will meet at the Hammond Housing Authority building, and that is at 7 p.m. And that is how change happens. One gesture, one person, one moment at a time. Thank you.
Any other unfinished business? Unfinished business is now closed. Next will be public expression. When you come up, state your name, address, and the city you live in. First speaker will be Mary Ellen Slazak.
Seems like that South Shore extension will die. I'm Mary Ellen
State your name, address, and
517
city.
Lewis Street.
Okay, thank you.
You know, the county tax was imposed because it was like nobody can live without the money. Not the municipalities, not the county itself, and now the city of Hammond is poised to throw away $250,000. What a waste of money. I guess the money wasn't that needed since it's such a willing crowd that wants to give it away. I want to touch on the fire department. I used to be an emergency medical technician. I trained with St. Catherine Hospital, finished up with the Hammond Fire Department. My instructors were Phil Kowalik and Jeff Coaches. And they're great guys. They deserve a lot more than what they've been getting. They've been getting the short end of the stick, and it's not fair. These guys put their lives on the line for us every day of the week. Well, who do you call? You call the Hammond Fire Department. It's not fair to them. Money's been freed up. They deserve it. They should get it, and that's the bottom line. I work with some of these guys. I train with some of these guys. This was a long time ago. It was when my oldest was a baby. But I'll never forget how hard they worked. And they deserve a lot more than what they've been getting. It makes me sick that they've been getting such a short stick. I got a comment to make on the ordinance to make these mortgage holders pay for not keeping up their properties. Oh yeah, stick it to them. Start taking them to court and make it stick, but good. But also in this ordinance, there should be something in there where the unsuspecting buyer does not get whammied. Because unfortunately, these properties are not being taken care of, and the city's got a cut, and other things happen, and all these liens are on there. Sometimes they really don't show up as a lien until somebody buys them. And then it's like, oh my gosh, what are we going to do when there's thousands of dollars that are owed on it? So something needs to be put in this ordinance where it's going to be a mandatory disclosure by these mortgage holders to the prospective buyers. My daughter got stuck with some. We got it cleared up eventually, but she bought a house that was foreclosed on. She bought it at an auction, and nothing showed up in Crown Point. And then when she went to get a permit for plumbing, she had to have some plumbers come and do work. It was like, uh-oh. We did get it cleared up, which was good, but I mean, if it happened to her, and I was pretty vigilant, and I really tried to check things out the best I could for her, it's going to happen to other people out there, and it has too. If these people are brave enough to buy a property that looks horrible and fix it up and contribute to the city of Hammond, God bless them. Let's make sure they don't get whammied, and that these mortgage holders do the right thing and do the disclosure. I don't know if there's anything in the ordinance now, but there needs to be. There needs to be something to protect the potential buyers. We don't want people that really, truly want to invest, maybe raise their families in Hammond, getting it stuck to them like that. It's just not fair to them. Thank you.
Next speaker will be Mr. Dale Scopoletto.
Good evening. My name is Dale Scopolite. I live at 24 Lawndale, Hammond. Presently, the city has an ordinance for rental registration, and it's $80 per unit. Well, just the other day, March 26th, the governor enacted Bill 1403 into law, which is called Regulation of Residential Rental Property, and it changes the fees for rental property. Now, there's been a bunch of questions, and I have a question for the council. You're the legislative body. You wrote the ordinance, okay? So question one, since this law was enacted, or this bill was enacted as a law on the 26th, our Hammond City Ordinance 96.152, Section I states, the city intends to create an enforceable ordinance which is compliant with all federal and local laws. Therefore, since the governor signed this on March 26th, per our city ordinance, the law should be compliant with the state law. Therefore, the rental registration fee, as a question, shouldn't that be changed as of, March 26th? Question 2, the annual fee is $80 a year, okay? Now, when he signed this law, the effective date is July 1st. So July 1st, the effective date, by definition, is the enforceable date. So therefore, on July 1st, our city ordinance will be void, okay? So if I have to pay the annual fee, tomorrow is the last day. Now, I'm paying it for the whole year, but realistically, in 3 months, it'll be void. So should the ordinance be prorated? I feel it should be, because we're really only going to be paying for 3 months. So question 1, should it be enacted on March 26th or prorated from July 1st? You're the legislative body. I'd like to have an answer. Thank you very much.
Next speaker will be Mr. George Stoya.
Hope this comes out okay. George Stoya, Robertsdale. All this talk about I call it the expropriation of our seated funds. And what I've seen, in addition to the train issues, is this suddenly, the issue of Unigov has suddenly come to the fore again. Now, personally, I'll tell you right off the bat, I'm not a big Unigov fan, so call me biased. But what's happening here is, if you recall, all the time we went a decade without, we were deprived of substantial funds that are, that I guess are, the frozen levy and the caps on the property taxes, et cetera. Now we're at a point where we're somewhat replenishing those funds, and now we're being asked, in terms of opportunity costs, to set aside a 37% of, the seated funds to fund the train, at least, hypothetically, pursuant to the study, if the study works out, et cetera. But what I find is this Unigov thing has suddenly slipped in, and those funds, which could be used to maintain our independent character of our town, perhaps our independent identity, is being herded. We're being driven like a herd into, because everybody's seated funds are going to be affected by this, and the money that we would normally set aside to have projects done within the city of Hammond, to whatever they may be it parks, be it whatever, that money's gone. It's going to be gone. And I just hope that it's taken into account. Again, I think that this is being exploited, this whole seated thing and the train thing, and if you take a look at the comparisons of what happened in Indianapolis, I've talked about white flight before, but you go down to Marion County when they went Unigov in 1970. Look at all the collar counties that have suddenly developed, places like, and the towns, Fishers, and all these little itty-bitty towns. Well, they're not so itty-bitty anymore. They're 30, 40, 50, 60,000. And Indianapolis itself, aside from some sports arenas, it's hollowing out, just like Atlanta, St. Louis. So I hope you take into account, I'm asking you to take into account, this whole idea of Unigov, that I know Mayor McDermott's big on it. That's fine, I guess. But I'm speaking out because, he is the mayor, and, he has a forum every day. And, if you make the comparisons, they aren't all that favorable, because all we're going to do is create white flight, again, from Lake County, and you're going to see build up in the counties of Newton, Jasper perhaps, Porter County. So, I guess be careful what we ask for. Thank you.
That'll conclude public expression. I have a motion to adjourn. Motion by Councilman Hinojosa, second by Councilman Higgs.